And out spake brave Horatius, the captain of the gate. To every man upon this earth death cometh soon or late. And how can man die better than facing fearful odds? For the ashes of his fathers and the temples of his gods.
Marisol took a moment to squeeze some water out of her hair and clean her glasses, then answered the phone. Reyes speaking. A man's voice replied. He was speaking in Tagalog, a non-standardized version of the Filipino language, frequently used in Metro Manila. Marisol, who normally spoke Filipino, strained her ears to keep up. Where are you? The voice asked. Your manager and crew are all out trying to find you. There's some kind of crisis going on near your location, and the airline is making arrangements to get everyone back to Manila as fast as possible. I'm in Detroit, Marisol said. She heard the airline employee gasp. Stay where you are. We'll see if we can get someone down there to pick you up, the man replied. Where are you? Are you in a shelter? We all saw that mess on the news. Hold on, Marisol replied. I'll get an address. Then Marisol ran through the waterlogged streets to grab Callie's shoulder. Callie was trying to direct her team amidst the chaos of the last few minutes, but most of the men and women were too dazed to do more than look around. Is there someplace we can go? Marisol asked. Off the street? Callie conferred with her teammates, then gave orders. Everyone on your feet. We're gonna crash with some friends. Marisol, Sebakira, Conti, Varian, Nina, Trig, Aisling, Blake, and JD all staggered to their feet and began following Callie and her SWAT team through the street, moving away from the Detroit River and deeper into the city. Blake was still on the phone with his own boss. Yes, Sergeant, I know. About 90 minutes, depending on traffic. I'll need the full 24 hours notice, Sergeant. I'll be there. Blake hung up. Lansing is losing their damn mind, Blake said. The governor might declare a state of disaster for Detroit, and the state police are looking into all of our shenanigans in Chi-Town and Owasso. They're saying I have to report to the armory in the next 24 hours, and there's a state trooper there waiting to interview me. Callie came to a stop in front of a 3-story brick building. The words, "Whiskey in the Jar," were visible on the facade. Well, you're still under my protective custody for now, Callie told Blake. Everyone else? Is everyone okay? Anyone hurt? I almost drowned, Mina shouted from the back. I'm still handcuffed back here. How was I supposed to survive whatever the hell that was? Stop whining, Blake retorted. I grabbed you and pulled you out of the water, didn't I? Is that all you've got to say? You're the god of my world, Mina spat. There's a lot I want to say to you. Callie rolled her eyes and approached a security gate in front of the building. She rapped her knuckles on it, then stood back. A moment later, the door opened from the inside. A bearded man peered out, looking at the soggy group, and said, We're closed due to water damage. Come back when the repair work is done. Callie reached into one of her vest pockets and produced an ID card. Next to her face and name was the image of a platypus fossil, the official logo of Paradox Interactive. The bearded man raised an eyebrow, then did a double take, looking hard at Callie's pointed ears. Oh, snap, you're that elf girl I heard LD talking about. Actually, I'm glad you brought a Go team. Our silent alarm has been going off for hours, and one of the employees isn't answering her phone. Rest of the staff is getting worried. I'm here on Paradox business, and everyone you see here is with me, Callie replied. We need to take some time to regroup. Does Paradox still own the apartments on the second floor? Yeah. Any of them vacant? Room 214 is open. So is 228 and 229. Callie rounded on the large group of SWAT specialists, creators, and creations. Males in 214, females in 229. I want C2 set up in 228. Get our stuff off any trucks that weren't washed into the fucking river. Blake jabbed his thumb at the bar. I gotta talk to some folks, he said. Not without an armed escort, you're not, Callie shot back. And Marisol's coming with me, Blake added. Fine, I'm coming too, Callie conceded. Behind her, Marisol could have sworn she heard Varian let out a girlish giggle. She, or he, found this exchange amusing. I've seen people in my world have conversations like that, Varian said to Trig. Or dialogue, I guess I should say. Didn't realize all of Blake's characters were just talking with his voice. My voice doesn't sound like the author, Conti ruffled her feathers in an indignant way. Now that I think about it, it seems like all of us female characters speak in Blake's voice, but in a higher pitch, Sebakira mused. Fascinating. Martyrs of Karak, that makes me want to kill him more, Mina cursed. Marisol and Blake did their best to ignore these comments, while they were escorted into the bar by Callie. The rest of the creations were bundled toward a second door that led to the upstairs apartments. Just before Marisol stepped through the heavy oaken door and into the bar, a small house cat brushed against her leg. Looking down, Marisol realized this fluffy white cat had red eyes that unmistakably belonged to someone she knew. Marisol knelt down, scooped up Aisling, and carried her into the bar. Inside, a mixture of patrons and staff were attempting to clean up the mess left behind by the deluge. The raging torrent had swept through the bar, saturating the place in ankle-deep water during the late-night rush. Blake started looking around the place as though he were a detective looking for clues, and he gestured for Marisol to follow. Meanwhile, the bearded man tried to talk to Callie. So, like I was saying, about 3 or 4 hours before all this flooding happened, someone set off the silent alarms, unauthorized access to both the inkwell and solarium. Okay, and what did you say about a missing employee? Meanwhile, Blake and Marisol went behind the counter. He asked a few of the staff if they could tell him where Aaron Bowie was, but no one knew the answer. Then he pulled out his cell phone and dialed a number. No answer. The call went directly to voicemail. Blake turned to Marisol. Have you ever worked an hourly job? Blake asked. Sure. When I was younger, I had a gig at the hotel where Mariposa works now, Marisol said. You need me to check the time cards? Who are we looking for? You're quick. That's awesome, Blake said with a smile. He reached up to the punch clock and took down a large envelope of time cards from the wall next to it. He split the stack in half and gave one half to Marisol. Aisling curled up around Marisol's neck and shoulders like a fluffy scarf. We're looking for a girl named Aaron Bowie. She's not supposed to be here, Blake explained. When things popped off, I told her to hide, but it looks like she might have come back here at some point. At that moment, Callie slammed her fist on the bar top, causing Marisol and Blake to jump. Another one? How many creations did you bring into the real world? Callie screamed at Blake. What book is Aaron from, and when the hell did you bring her here? Blake raised his hands. In my defense, Aaron was the first one ever to cross over, and she was never meant to be more than an Easter egg. Things have kinda spiraled out of control since then. One of the SWAT operators tapped Callie's shoulder and pointed to a nearby patron, an American man who was mourning the watery destruction of his lecture notes and complaining about how he was going to be late for an appointment at the solarium. That guy has seen her, just a few days ago, actually, the operator said. Blake glanced in the direction the man was pointing and then called out, Jack, you saw Aaron? Where? When? Just before Blake started to walk away, he leaned in close to Marisol and whispered, Inkwell, check to see if anyone's messed with my stuff. Yours as well. Marisol knew what the inkwell was, but had never gone there. She knew Blake was mistaken in his belief that she had an entry here, but there was no time to correct him. Instead, Blake went off to speak with the patron known as Jack, and Marisol moved across the bar to the inkwell, where an old man was muttering angrily to himself about having to repair and reorganize the inkwell. Sloshing through half an inch of standing water, Marisol allowed Aisling to jump onto one of the bookshelves. The cat peered around in all directions, its eyes wide. I bet you've never seen so many books before, huh? Marisol said to Aisling. It's okay, I know what we're looking for. Marisol ran her fingers along the shelves. She had been a fan of Blake's for about a year before becoming his beta reader. She had not memorized the titles of all his works, but she knew most of them and quickly spotted Blake's entry in the inkwell. She tapped each of Blake's previous books, reading their names aloud. After Everything, Faith in Chaos, Dossiers, My Sister Ship, Childhood Memory, The Stormbreakers, Legend of Vetu Kealoa, Crossroads of Past and Future. What? Marisol paused. Something was not right. She counted the books, then counted them again. She tried to recite the names of Blake's books from memory, then looked again. A moment later, Marisol was running back toward Blake, panting from the rising fear in her throat. "Blake!" she gasped. Blake turned away from Jack, who saw the look of alarm on Marisol's face and instinctively took a step back. "2 of your books are gone from the inkwell," Marisol said. "My Father's War and Finding Love Under the Winter Star." Vetu and Akira paced in the shadows, listening to Akira's cell phone as Tenna delivered her report. "I can't explain how, but whatever psionic technique Malum used to awaken us to the truth, it just didn't work on Kailani, probably because she was already insane." "What about Varian and Mina?" Akira replied in a soft voice. "Have they really turned?" "Mina? Definitely not. She's probably being held prisoner," Tenna replied. "Varian, though? Come on. You were there when he or she or whatever they are got pulled out of the gate. Varian's got a strong, natural resistance to psionics." "Willpower," Akira corrected her. "We call it willpower in my world." "Whatever," Tenna replied. "Look, Varian's definitely trying to shake it off. Not sure if they managed to do it, but they're trying. Tell Malum the next creation he pulls better be a pushover, 'cause this one was hell." Akira said, "Fine then, I've got someone in mind anyway. Someone who might incense the rest of Blake's little group and turn them against him. Might even provoke one of them into doing the job for us." Akira shut off her radio and turned to Vetu. "We're going. Quiet exit out the front, then we'll go back to the gate from Stockholm." Using their psionic abilities to slip past a few people in the hallowed halls of the solarium, Akira and Vetu began moving toward the front entrance. All of their research and planning and preparation told them that Paradox headquarters was on the other side of the street from the solarium. All they had to do was step through the front doors and the 2 women would be on the streets of Stockholm. Just when Akira and Vetu were 15 feet away from the tall set of double doors, a shrill, robotic voice declared for all to hear, "Naked girl." A sudden, painful silence fell over the solarium. Akira and Vetu froze in place, then slowly turned their heads to look around. The Lego robot Asimov was rolling through the hall on its little plastic wheels, turning its head to keep one of its sensors aimed directly at Vetu. "That robot can see you," Akira hissed. Out of shock and surprise, both Vetu and Akira broke focus for just a moment, and that was all it took. Akira's psionic disguise fell away. Vetu became visible to everyone else. Up and down the hallway, almost 50 men and women paused in their activities to stare. Akira could sense dozens of people staring at Vetu upon realizing she was not fully covered up. Mentally, Akira added this terrible character design to the list of reasons she wanted to kill the author. A member of Paradox staff was the first to recover from the shock. He raised one shaking hand, pointed at Vetu, and shouted, "Nudity outside of the CK3 AAR forum! Are we blind? Deploy the moderators!" "Run!" Akira screamed. "I'll get the return beacon!" She and Vetu took off at a dead sprint, making for the double doors. Vetu put one hand out and sent a pulse of telekinetic energy ahead of her. The double doors crashed open. Vetu and Akira were hit by a blast of cold air, and then they were out. A low cloud ceiling obscured the nearby skyscrapers, while the CN Tower lit up with brilliant purple and blue colors. A chill wind swept across the city, bringing the smell of Lake Ontario with it. Akira was the first one to figure out what was wrong. "This is not Stockholm!" Akira cursed. "Fuck! This isn't Stockholm!" "They're coming!" Vetu yelled. Several men were emerging from the solarium doors. Vetu put both of her hands to her head and then projected a telepathic attack toward one of them. Instantly, the poor soul began to have a panic attack as his mind was filled with the most nightmarish and traumatizing of images. He fell to his knees, convulsing and hyperventilating. This was enough to distract the others. As they stopped to offer help, Vetu turned to her companion. Akira had opened her coat and withdrawn a small technological device, shaped like the handle, magazine well, and stock of a rifle. Vetu grabbed onto Akira. "And you're sure this wouldn't have worked inside that building?" "Very sure," Akira replied, "but out here we should be just fine." Akira pulled the trigger on the return beacon. In the book Akira comes from, the return beacon should have behaved in a highly specific way, but things were different now. A swirling vortex portal opened up in front of Akira and Vetu, looking very similar to a wormhole from Stellaris. It lurched backwards and swallowed both women completely. Once Akira and Vetu were gone, the vortex portal shrank and dissipated away to nothing.
Georgia overtake